past year, I've thought a lot about how fortunate us millennials are to have these first world problems. Even just the fact that I'm making this video for a large private university in my town, the fact that I'm well nourished, the fact that I'm in a house right now, not out in the freezing cold. There's so many things to be thankful for, and food is one of them. I'm going to establish how lucky we are through the eyes of food waste in America and hunger, and we're going to talk about a few ways that we can get rid of these problems. 40% of all food produced in the United States is wasted, and this happens all throughout the flow of food from farm to your own table. An estimated 43 billion pounds of this was wasted just in stores alone in 2008. And this is because they're forced to buy fixed amounts and because they need to keep their stock in tip-top shape at all times. People don't really want to go to the grocery store and see like 3 apples left at the bottom of the bin, and they want their produce to look nice as well. Convenience stores throw out approximately 25% of their food, mostly due to ready-to-eat foods such as like pizza, donuts, pastries, breakfast sandwiches, all those things you see sitting in the warming hut. They keep that replenished all the time, whether they expect anybody to come in or not. They just need to have it in case and be ready at all times. However, due to food safety, things that are kept hot for over 4 hours have to be thrown out if they're not at the correct temperature.
They have a dozen donuts right there.
And this happens a lot. I work in a restaurant and we have to throw out all food as long as it's touched the table. I've seen people throw out perfectly good steaks just because the customer didn't like the way it was cooked, and it's really sad. The food has finally gotten to your table. American families end up throwing out 25% of all food and beverages that they purchase. This is partially because the surface area of the average American dinner has increased by 36% since 1960. This means that we're piling a lot of food on our plates, much more than we can consume, leaving us with leftovers that get gross fast. How many times do you look inside your fridge, find leftovers, and think, I'm just gonna make myself some ramen or some fresh new food? A lot. So this is partially because of the low economic impact wasting food has on us. Food is a small percent of our budgets nowadays. It's one of the things that are still affordable in life for most of us. So we don't really think twice about throwing out expired food or buying extra amounts of food. And this relates to the fact that retailers actually encourage us to buy more food because our food waste is profitable for them. They will not hesitate to do sales that, such as like 10 for $10 or buy one get one free, which encourage you to buy more. Now let's talk about hunger in the United States. I know this sounds like an oxymoron. Hunger in the land of obesity, McDonald's, and apple pie? Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. We need to stop talking about it like it's not. According to feedingamerica.org, over 42 million Americans in households are food insecure, 13.1 million of which are children. This means that they don't know when or if they'll have their next meal, and the main causes of it are unemployment. Medical costs kind of cause a never-ending cycle when it comes to food insecurity, because food insecurity leads to malnutrition, which leads to more medical costs, which leads to more food insecurity. 20% of these households that experienced food insecurity had at least one veteran living in them. And this is really sad because they protect our country and then they come home and they either suffer from a traumatic brain injury or post-traumatic stress disorder, and they find it really hard to assimilate back into normal life and to find a job that is relatable to what they've been doing their whole life. And this really leads to low income and being irritable, so being rejected from their family. Many become homeless because of this, and this just leads to a low supply of food. And many are afraid to apply for SNAP benefits or things like that because they're taught to be self-reliant. By this point, we're all thinking and eager to help with this. Food waste hasn't always been this bad, but it's actually increased 50% since 1970. Now, what can we do to help? Firstly, we can buy produce even if it doesn't look the hottest. There's plenty of disformed produce out in the world that people just don't buy, and it literally gets thrown away because you don't like what it looks like. That banana there is still filled with potassium whether it has 2 heads or not. Currently, we should urge the government to clarify expiration dates because currently there's a few different things we use, such as use-by dates, which don't indicate that it's not healthy for you to eat. It just indicates that it's best by that time. And sell-by dates have absolutely nothing to do with the food safety of it. So this really confuses a lot of Americans into just throwing out food whether it's still good or not. We can plan meals ahead of time so we don't overbuy food. If you know what you're going to be eating every day throughout the week, you know exactly what you need to buy and you won't go overboard. Last and most importantly, we really need to raise public awareness about this. There's many people who will either go to the dining hall, the buffet, any restaurant and just order everything. We think we're like so hungry all the time and then we end up throwing out some of the food. I really urge you, if you go out to eat, either order what you know you'll be able to eat or take a box home with you. In conclusion, billions of pounds of food are wasted in the US every year, and millions of Americans are hungry or food insecure. And we just need to realize that this is a big issue. Whether we think that we're the obese country or the richest country, these things are still going on and we need to do something about it. It would be very easy for us to waste less. If all of us just take a few small steps every day to combat food waste, it would make a huge difference. And it's such an easy thing to change that there's no reason that we shouldn't try.